2 and 1. But speak thou the things which become it sound doctrine, that the aged women likewise, that they be in behavior, as become it holiness, not false accusers, not given to much wine, teachers of good things, that they may teach the women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their own husbands, that the word of God be not blasphemed. Chaste conversations.
All praises to the Most High. Welcome back, sisters, to Chaste Conversations. We are here to discuss tonight and have a quick study on a woman's duty and her role. Okay, a woman's duty and her role. So first off, you gotta ask yourself, what is a woman's duty? And then, what is expected of me in my household? We don't need no deep dark sayings and no deep precepts, to relate to us what we need to be doing and the place that we should be in. Okay. And then we have to chime through the world and obstacles and all these other things and upbringings of, how we're raised and how it shaped us. But again, if we're seeking the Most High in His face and we're reading His word and you're praying for wisdom and understanding, these are the things that we will implement in our lives. Not saying it's going to be easy, but these are things that we're striving for. Again, clocking in so you could reap the benefits because you're putting in the work, okay? So 1 Timothy chapter 2, 9 to 12.
Okay, it says, in like manner also, that women adorn themselves in modest apparel, with shamefacedness and sobriety, not with braided hair or gold or pearls or costly array, but which becometh women professing godliness with good looks.
Okay,
good works, sorry.
Good works. We're going to pause right there for a second because I wanted to go into the fact of, we're talking about the duty and the role, okay? He created you, woman, He created you. And what did He assign you to do? What does He want you to look like? What does He want you to sound like? What does He want you to operate like, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so in like manner also that women adorn themselves in a certain type of way, okay? And that way is in modest apparel. We don't got to dive in again. We got many videos, okay? And you could Google the word modest, but again, we know that modest is the opposite of revealing, okay? Or trying to be seen, right? So, and with shamefacedness and sobriety in all things, not with broidered hair, gold, pearls, or costly array. So it's not about the outward adorning, huh? That precept is also in 1 Peter 3 and 3, okay? So, but they become women professing godliness with good works. We talked about those works when we did our lessons on reaping the benefits of a godly woman, right? So, that woman professing godliness with good works, I will bring up to just precept with that, Proverbs 31. Read the whole chapter, please. But for the sake of this lesson, Proverbs 31 and 13. She seeketh wool and flax and worketh willingly with her hands. Okay? So she is not idle from the get-go. You know how we raise our daughters and, and sons, and you don't want them spending too much time sitting in the bed, laying in the bed, getting up at 11 o'clock, and being idle, okay? You're not going to sit around and watch TV all day. You're not going to be laxing your homework. You got to do so, not being idle. It's what He wants. So in order for us to teach that to our children, to our young girls, we have to first be doing that ourselves.
Khan, I was just mentioning, You just mentioned, adorning yourself. And I was just thinking about how some of us, when we're trying to understand if we need to drastically or even just change our wardrobe or change how we present ourselves, I want to encourage women to eventually get out of our head of like, oh, I can't wear certain things now because of function. And to always remember when we're dressing a certain way, it's always about function. Meaning, okay, modest, like you said, doesn't mean anything bad. It just means not revealing a lot of your body or displaying yourself as wanting attention, being like this big old something that everybody's going to see and talk about, right?
Right.
So when I say function, you still want to make sure your clothes fit well. They're not overly big, or they're not overly, obviously an opposite, too tight, because some of us may have to work on how it lays on our body.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we're uncomfortable with that already, and some of the excuses or reasons that we say, that's why I wear pants, or that's why I wear shorts, or that's why I wear certain types of material, or that's why things are fitted to me so that I can move. Like you can move too. So Isaiah chapter 3, verse 16, it's kind of the opposite, but it's almost a way of thinking, this is not what I want to be, but it says, moreover, the Lord says, because the daughters of Zion are haughty and walk with stretched forth necks and wanton eyes, walking and mincing as they go, and making a tinkling with their feet. 17, therefore the Lord will smite the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion, and the Lord will discover their secret parts. So it goes on all the way down to, gosh.
All the way.
I want to hold you, but basically, even verse 20, there was some big old social media trend about bonnets. But my whole thing is, we don't want to go the other end and look unattractive to ourselves and to anybody that we're looking to marry, or just to present ourselves as models for our children or for our family. We have to remember, we may not be able to afford certain types of material, but there's a lot of material out there that you can still wear. And the opposite of that is looking a certain way, looking like you're better than, looking like this is how you attract attention. This is how you get people to do what you want them to do. And thinking that, I got to wear certain jewelry or certain things to make sounds and to attract, and think that nothing can stop me, because then you start getting into some of these other works of the flesh and ego and those types of things. So I just want to encourage women that once we start making those changes and we're really trying to figure out what to wear, how to wear it, what looks right, because now we're not going the same way anymore, just remember your function. It still has to make sense, and it still has to be able to make you comfortable, because it's not meant to restrict you. It's meant to free you, and it's meant to give you a better chance of like, okay, this is my role. So now that I'm dressed like this, what am I actually supposed to be doing? Because there's a lot of things you really probably don't need to be doing, in our attire as women. Like there's so many things we've been allowed to do, and I'll just leave it at that. But Isaiah chapter 3, you could probably go through the whole thing, and it really hits hard, but just also know it's not meant to get you to start from scratch wearing a burlap sack.
Right.
Just breathe and take it one outfit at a time.
Right. One outfit at a time. Khan, all praises, sis. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that out for our sisters, because again, it's not meant to be grievous. Okay. It's not meant to put us in a box and keep us from, it's really just so you can, and if we would really find the things that work for us and our body types and shapes, if we just took the time, just like we take the time to get up and put on makeup. Some of that stuff take an hour sometimes. If we would just take the time to look at different fabrics, look at, like not the best example, but for example, you know, before I met my husband, I used to wear a lot of dark clothes. Okay. And I didn't even realize it. It was all dark, 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 dark. And I think inadvertent, like subconsciously in my mind, you know how they say dark colors make you look smaller, right? So I don't know if that's why I was doing it, but I ventured out of that once I met my husband into wearing bright colors. Who would have thought? You know what I mean? Like, and for him and for a lot of people, including women that are really in their femininity, right? And we did a lesson on that already. Pink equates to them exuding femininity. Pink, softness, purples, lilacs, you know, the lighter greens instead of dark colors. You know what I'm saying? Because it brightens you up. When you see something bright, it tends to brighten you up, like the flowers Sister Sheila May has on her screen, on her, you know, something bright. So if we just take the time to learn what works for us and is flattering to our bodies, but still not saying, hey, I'm here, this is what I got, you know, we'll start to feel more comfortable, okay, with the things that we can do to help us stay modest at the same time. Okay. So I'm really glad you brought that up, because again, with earrings, you know, I know there's like Seventh-day Adventists, for example, they wear earrings no bigger than a quarter or something. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like they don't wear earrings bigger than a quarter, and that's how they do it. But I see why they do it, because they don't want to end up, I guess, wearing the big flashy things. Right? Oh, okay, they know wear no earrings at all. Okay, so I stand corrected. But like Sister Chaya brought out in Isaiah chapter 3, if you guys take the time to read on down, it will show you that we had earrings, we had jewels, we had these things. And so it's not saying you can't have those things, but if those things is what is leading you, guide is what you're putting out there first, and you have to have the biggest and the best and the, you know, the most expensive, and it's just dripping from him, so you can be, you know, put out there physically, but yet you're spiritually dead. Okay, this is what we're talking about. All right. Wow. So this is the role that we're talking about. He doesn't want you flaunting your goods all over the place. So yeah, all praises for that, Sister Chaya. All right, Sister Devonna, you could continue. I believe we're still in First Timothy chapter 2, verse 11.
Okay, it says, let the woman learn in silence with all subjection, but I'll suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence.
And then if you could drop down to 15.
Says, notwithstanding, she shall be saved in childbearing, if they continue in faith and charity and holiness with sobriety.
Fine. All right. So, you know, 9 goes in with verse 9 goes in with 15. Again, all we have to worry about is what he designed us to do. Everything, nothing else matters if we're not in our rightful place and in our right order. Okay? Like he said, let all things be done decently and in order. So if we're in order, we're good. Okay? And this is exactly what he wants to do. Again, we're coming out of learning a whole lot of different ways, and a whole lot of things trickle down through the generations, but we have to come back to the basics and a level of understanding. Okay. So I'm going to break down, go back to verse 11, where it says, let the woman learn in silence with subjection. Okay. And some people might think that, oh, I just have to shut up all the time. Okay. Again, there is a place to speak. There is a time to speak. And then we're not, and then he's saying here, let the woman learn in silence with all subjection, and he suffers not a woman to teach, nor usurp authority over the man. Again, to be in silence. So again, just knowing when to speak, not usurping that authority think I want to bring that out in 1 Peter 3 and 4. Let it be the hidden man of the heart, in that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of God a great price. Okay? And there's many precepts that will say that a wise person knows when to shut up. Okay? And again, practicing these things day and day and day and day, because I'm not perfect, but you got to know when to speak. We have to know when to just put a lid on it, because it's just going to cause tension. It's just going to cause friction. Just going to be out of order at the end of the day, right? And we're not supposed to be at the, what they call it, the pulpit, leading the congregation full of men. It says the men are the leaders. The men are the heads. So if the men are the heads of the household, what do we look like leading the men anywhere? Right? So I see it says, so learn in silence. Also in Proverbs 31, verse 26, and we're going to be in 31 quite a bit, because that's Proverbs 31, woman. Verse 26 says, she opened her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. So knowing that there is a time not to speak. We also did a lesson on that. Roll back through the videos, you'll see that. And when she does open her mouth, is full of wisdom and the law of kindness. That was
that's a good. The Gilead Jephthah, that story right there, it's really cool to read that. After you read Deborah and Barak and you just keep reading and it gets to him, it's really cool. It was very interesting just reading about him. But when I read that, I was like, wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute, what?
I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It takes strength to do that. So, well, exactly. So, and being in submission, whether it's to your in subjection, right, to your head, whether that be your father or your husband, it takes strength, it takes wisdom, it takes being led. And that goes into what I was going to say. It's a man's position, right, to lead, to protect, to provide. So we should make sure that it is our that we're in our role to be led, not the ones trying to take the reins and trying to put things in where they should be. That's the job of the leader, the job of in your father's household. That's his job. You're to follow through with the orders given in your household, right? Just like we do with our children. We're the ones to raise our children. We want them to follow our example, take our leadership, okay? Or things will be out of order. They'll be running the household. So it's our role to be in a position to be led. That means submissiveness. Okay, that's a big word. Submission. Being able to listen. I think you brought that out in there too. Okay. Being able to listen and take instruction. That also plays a part in us being silent when we just start off reading. In order to take instruction and listen, you got to be first silent, right? Because you can't be talking while you're listening. Sister Sheila May says Christ had a role. Oh, it went away. Christ had a role in Luke chapter 2, verse 41 to 52. If you guys want to go back and read that exactly. And in Deborah, yes, we have many examples of women that were fulfilling their duties and roles, whether they were married, whether they were widowed, okay, still in their place, still had that order. Esther is a role model, she says, in the book of Judith shows her role. We have to know we cannot lead. The only people we lead in is our children. Okay, if we have children. All right, so we gotta listen. That looks like listening and following, taking instruction and slow to speech, like we were saying before. So that precept for those of us that are married, what does this look like for us? Again, what is the role of a wife, or what is the role of a woman? So now in turn, we asked the question earlier, what is the expected role, your role in your household? And that's the first thing we should be looking to. That's the first question you should ask. You know, when you're courting somebody, dating somebody, you're like, okay, what do you expect of me? What do you expect in this relationship? Where do you see this relationship in 6 months, in a year, 2 years? And what would be your role or your part in it? You know, for the man, he might want children. You might not want children. Well, it says here, I think we read in 1 Timothy 2, chapter 2, verse 15, childbearing. If you're married, one of your duties is to give your husband children. Unless, of course, the Most High says no and it's not happening, but you're not against it, like, boom. So these are the questions. So that way you can fulfill your role. One of the questions when you're courting is, can you cook? So now, yeah, I could cook. And you know, a lot of us be like, yeah, I could throw down. But then when you get the man, you ain't throwing down nothing but the house and bricks. We're pulling down the house. We're pulling off the sheets and throwing out the dough. Like, so ask these questions if you're in the courting stage, or if we didn't, or if we're married, find out what your role is. Have you really sit down with your significant other, with your spouse, and say, hey, what are you expecting of me? And you know what? You could really glean something from this lesson, or just reading the verses pertaining to the woman and what does it look like for her and her role and duty, so you can do these things. And it's going to be like a light switch. It's going to be like day and night when you just start being submissive, when you just start cooking food at home instead of buying out all the time. Okay? When you actually start getting up and putting on something that is appealing to his eyes, not just getting up and putting on something your boss wants you to wear, but making sure that you appealing to your husband as well. You smell good to your husband as well. You know, the children are being led as he instructs you that you're teaching them. Ephesians 5:22. Sister Tiffany, if you could bring that out, Ephesians 5:22.
Oh, sure. It says, wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto the Lord.
Fine. Precept again in Proverbs 31, verse 11 to 12. The heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, in you, because you're doing what you're supposed to do, that he will have no need of spoil. He ain't got no reason to go out there and buy sloppy joes and greasy burgers, or look lust on the other female because you ain't doing what you're supposed to do at home and all this other stuff. Not giving a ticket to anybody. No, we're just speaking the fact that what is your role in the home, and are you fulfilling it? Okay. Because it says here that he will have no need of spoil if you are doing these things, because his trust is in you. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. Okay. That's the married woman, right? Okay. So what does that look like for you? Ask these questions. And throughout your whole entire courtship and throughout your marriage, and even as single women, these are things that you're are to be doing now, prepping yourself. Okay? Because I think I'm jumping ahead a little bit, because as a daughter, it should be her duty and role to look to the well-being of her parents. If you're still in your parents' house, it's your well-being. This is why they paid a dowry. Okay, back in the day, we know that don't happen today, but this is why they paid a dowry, because when that man was taking a female to marry and taking her out of the house, he was losing, okay, one of his benefits. He was losing an extra hand. He was losing the fact that, okay, my daughter was a good help in the house. She was making sure the animals were fed, or she was making sure the floors were swept, or the dishes were clean. She was helping my wife cook, bake the, the cakes and stuff, these things. So now you're going to have to do that now that you're married, okay? But again, as a single woman, what are you doing as fulfilling your duty and role in your community? That's where it starts. What are you doing in fulfilling your role to the Most High? Your role is letting him protect you, or you're the one that getting up guns blazing. You're the one that's standing in front ready to fight. Like, what is your protection for? Right? So in that, it's showing your softness, your meekness, your trusting his decision to lead you and protect you. That takes a lot. Okay. It takes a lot to let your guard down so that way your protection can protect you. That is your duty. Because he's the provider. We read that he is the provider and the protector. Who is he protecting if you're the one in front trying to jump over the fence and bulldogs everywhere like you? No. Who brought it up? Sister Chaya? Or in Judges with Sister Deborah. She didn't get the revelation from the Most High and then run up the hill with the army. She went and gave the prophecy to who she was supposed to give it to, so that way judgment could be, fulfilled in that way through him, right? Through the hands of a woman, yes, but she gave the prophecy to him, okay? And we have these accounts all over the place with Nabal and Abigail, okay? Just knowing where your protection is. She knew her protection was she knew that she was being protected, was going to be protected when she did what she did. In the fact of, okay, so what did she implement there actually? What did Abigail implement there when David came and was going to kill Nabal? Okay.
She offered repentance or some kind of a gift. I got to go back and look at it. It was like he was basically apologizing and hoping that this would keep them from getting killed.
Right. So she gave the sheep and the oxen and all that stuff to King David, so that way he didn't go and follow through with his thought to kill Nabal. Okay. That was in her role as well, right? As a wife, again, we talk about the analogy of like in the chess game, how the queen protects the king. The move I have to make strategically. She used patience. She used submissiveness to, again, because it says she's in subjection to the king as well. He's the king. You got to obey the king, right? Okay. But putting her household, we read that she puts her household first. I think we read it. I keep trying to reference it, but I don't think we brought it out. So that might be in First Corinthians. I see you, sis.
Let me get talking about Abigail.
Right.
That's in First Samuel.
Well, the precept I was
25. Yeah, that's Samuel.
The precept I was looking for that I keep trying to go back to was there's a difference. This is in First Corinthians 7:34. That there's a difference between the wife and a virgin. The unmarried woman caring for the things of the Lord. that she may be holy in body and spirit. So when I was speaking earlier about the unmarried woman, this is what I was referring to. So Salakia for, not bringing that out earlier. She cared for the things of the Most High, but she that is married cared for the things of the world, how she pleased her husband. So this was again fulfilling her role. That looks different in it looks a little bit different in all our household. It's not cookie cutter. We're applying the basics, yes, okay. Not saying that your husband can't cook dinner sometimes, you know what I'm saying? But it's your duty and your role. It's not for you to assign it to him, right? I mean, it's not our duty to assign it to him. Again, that might look different in different households for different reasons, but it's still, again, we're knowing that we're not neglecting doing it at all, is what I'm saying. Okay, we're not. So, because it was our duty, it's our duty. All right. So you're asking these questions in the beginning. What do you expect of me in the household? So that way I can fulfill it. Okay. So, Chaya, you have your hand. You had that precept.
I'm trying to remember which one it was. When you were asking about just examples of different roles. Another role could also be Anna in the book of Tobit. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily explain everything that she did, but in chapter 2 of Tobit, and my wife Anna did take women's work to do. Verse 12, and when she had sent them home to the owners, they paid her wages and gave her also besides a kid. It goes on a little bit more, but this chapter talks about his wife and what happened to him right before he was sitting under a tree, and I believe bird dung fell into his eye, so he was blinded. And so he's explaining that something was going on, and his wife also worked. So the example would be, even just like in Proverbs 31, the woman can have multiple things to do, but this is also saying those same things can also be done outside of the house. Because some people also think that how they want to run their household according to scriptures may only mean that the woman is only allowed to work in the home, or she can work outside of the house for emergencies only. Like you said earlier, ask who you're marrying, who you're getting ready to be in a union with, expectations and standards, and hopefully coming to common ground prior to. Some people have, married and then gotten into the truth, and it's one of those things you start to like reflect on and maybe hopefully readjust as you move forward. But one of those things is, she had a job, she was getting paid. It wasn't shameful work, and she was bringing those wages home to be used however they needed to be used in the household. But because he also was blinded, she at this point is now the only one able to bring home money for this time period. So I don't want to keep going, but I think this shows a little bit of a character of who Anna was to Tobit, and my perspective of this is similar to other instances with some of our other women in the Bible, like Moses and Zipporah, when they had to get their child circumcised and something was going on with Moses, and how sometimes our role also is to be stern. So like, that's how I saw Zipporah's response a little bit, and sometimes when you read into Anna and Tobit, I see a little bit of a sternness, but she was still considerate of her husband's situation, and she just was like, hey, this is our situation. For good listeners, quiet, silent, not so active in a response to just be rash or rush into anything without actually thinking about it. So that's kind of what I saw when I saw Timothy, and mentioned thinking about Anna as well, as like the roles are the same of like, you know, you're hearing everything, you're still moving, but you're trying to put everything in place because we're help me, like I mentioned in Genesis 2. We're here to help, we're here to aid. Sometimes we're even here to pick up where you left or what you missed.
Right.
And, you know, and kind of be another shield for other things.
Fine. Yep. And that's what that Proverbs 31 coming by. Like I said, read it. We just have to read the whole thing over and over and over because, you know, my husband always say it all the time. Sometimes he be joking. I don't think, but she does. What is she not doing for the benefit of her household? You know, so she's gonna pick up the slack when he's down. She can be up. It says two are better than one. When one fall, the other is there to lift them up, right? And so that is huge as a unmarried woman in your community, in your household, under your father's house. That is huge when you're a married woman, you know. So I love that you brought out Tobit, sis. Love, 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 love that. Because again, she took on the woman's role. That was perfect. What is a woman's role? What were they talking about there? Woman's duties, you know, and still having to do her duties the obvious ones, and still being submissive to her husband, still providing for his needs, his being compassionate towards him. You know, we're emotional creatures, so they need that side from us. All these things, you know, for some of us it might be hard, but again, we have to just, you know, realize that this is our lot, this is our role, and it's huge. It's a huge job. It's a godly position to be in if you're fulfilling these things, right? And you know, it's again expected to, I think we brought it out already. Oh, when you were talking about grave, sis, in 1 Timothy 3:11, even so their wives must be grave. Grave is going into being honest. It's going into being honest and not slanderers, okay? And sober. You can have a glass of wine, but we aren't out here falling out. We ain't out here falling out, okay? And then so you're not being sober and faithful in all things. So yes, the wife is expected to please her husband in all things and serve him in whatever she's doing. If you're working outside the home, you're working for the benefit of your household, not just for you, right? Not just for myself, so I could buy Louis Vuittons and Birkins and all these other stuff, right? Okay. The betterment of the household, so he can lead us, and meeting his needs. We are help meeting his needs. Okay. I had, like, you know, y'all know I like to give examples and I put myself out there a little bit, but ain't no shame in it, you know, because we all learning. But I had a little thing today, you know, my husband was, you know, in pain and stuff like that. And I sympathized for a moment, but then I put myself first in the fact that I actually didn't sympathize I said something I shouldn't in the moment. Okay. And that did not help. He's in pain and all these other stuff. So there I go again, not putting silence where it needed to be. Okay. I mean, I corrected it afterwards, but in that moment, I could have implemented some silence, some empathy, some deep compassion. You know, just being comforting. That was the time for me to be comforting. Okay. And it happens. It happens. It happens. But knowing, just taking that breather and realizing, ooh, I just stepped out of my role right there. You know, I just stepped out of my role right there. No matter how minute I thought it was or whatever, I still stepped out of my role. Okay. And again, wife and mother, primary ministry is in the home. That goes back into 2 Timothy, where he suffers not a woman to teach and usurp the authority over a man. We're not telling him anything and telling him what he gonna do and ain't gonna do. You know, we could make suggestions, right? But we emasculate our men when we think that we're gonna take the reins and ride the horse to Calvary. Then again, we're stepping out of our roles and not trusting that he's gonna provide and protect us. You see what I'm saying? And then we end up being what's that word? Reproachful, because he's not being able to do these things, and we're wondering why. Well, it's because you took the reins and riding down the hill. You didn't let him do it. So we can't yell at him for not taking the reins and being up the hill when he should have been. You took the reins. Now he got to run up the hill. Okay. Y'all excuse my analogies. It sounds good. Okay. So let him have his tools that he could build with, and we are to help. Okay. And the way we help is, again, applying silence where it needs be. Okay. Applying that wisdom and law of kindness, right? When we do speak. Okay. That's something I could have done today instead of opening my big fat mouth. Okay. Primary ministry is in the home where she can help and bless her household. Okay. That's your first duty as a wife and a mother. Okay. First. And the unmarried woman in your community, what does that look like? What is your role in the community? Do you even have a role in your community? We read a scripture earlier, the charitable, being charitable, right? Working well with her hands. Okay. Being a help. This is the woman's duty and role, believe it or not. Take it or leave it. But I promise you, if you implement these things in your household, whether you're married or not, that your life will be better and you're going to feel a lot better. Weight going to be lifted off your shoulders as you shouldn't have had it in the first place. Because again, I know we done trod through many, many generations of, oh, I could do this by myself and all of this. I don't need no man and all this other stuff. But yeah, right. When you need that tire change, who you calling? Okay. Stop. Okay, and when AAA come, it's a man behind the wheel, ain't it? All praises, all praises. We could take all examples away from all our foremothers in this book. We just gotta study and apply and pray for the wisdom, and don't be too hard on ourselves. Okay, it's gonna, like you said, one dress at a time, one precept at a time. Okay, and just tearing down these false doctrines and these worldly ways that we carry into our households. Okay, so all praises to the Most High. That was it for a woman's duty and role. With that being said, until next time, same place, same beauty. With that, we say shalom.
Shalom.
All praises to the Most High.
Shalom.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Shalom. Good night.
Good night, sis.